You know that feeling, right? You're playing a video game and the enemies are just, well, they're dumb. Today we're going to dive into a wild story about how a brilliant solution to this classic problem didn't come from some fancy new code, but from thousands of years of human history. It really sounds like a fun thought experiment, doesn't it? Could the tactical genius of history's greatest generals actually outsmart a computer? Well, believe it or not, this very question is at the heart of our story, and the answer is way more surprising than you might think. All right, so let's set the scene. We're in the world of Arma 3, this hyper-realistic military simulation game. It's famous for its incredible sandbox freedom, but it has this one glaring problem that players have been talking about for years: the AI controlling the enemy soldiers. The AI is just rigid. I mean, it sees an enemy, it shoots. It gets shot at, maybe it'll duck behind the nearest wall, but it's not going to try to flank you or coordinate with its squad to lay down suppressing fire. There's just no real spark of intelligence there, you know? And because it's so rigid, it becomes painfully predictable. For players who spend hundreds, even thousands of hours into this game, the enemy AI stops being a real challenge. It pretty much just becomes a shooting gallery of robots that are following the same simple scripts over and over and over again. Now, don't get me wrong, the Arma modding community is absolutely incredible. And they've come up with some amazing mods to try and fix this, and they definitely make things better. But even the best of them are still built on that same old foundation, just pre-programmed rules that can't truly learn or adapt. So the fundamental problem? It's still there. And this is where a really, really ambitious idea comes into play. If the problem is that the AI can't learn, well, why not use the most powerful learning tool we have today? Machine learning. This was the big what-if moment. What if, instead of just writing more and more rules, we could actually create a system that teaches the AI, a system that could learn from its mistakes, learn from its successes, and slowly evolve into a genuinely clever opponent? So the big-brained approach here was something called reinforcement learning. The idea was to build a model, run it through thousands, maybe millions of simulated battles completely outside the game, and give it a little reward every time it did something smart, like a successful flank or surviving an ambush. Eventually, in theory, it would learn to be a tactical genius all on its own. It's a brilliant idea, in theory, but in practice, well, that dream ran headfirst into a massive, massive wall, a wall built by the game's engine itself. Yeah, the dream of a super smart AI just slammed into the hard reality of the game's engine. It just wasn't built for this kind of thing. Its scripting language is slow, and trying to run a complex machine learning model in real time would bring even the most powerful gaming PC to its knees. And even worse, just gathering these thousands of hours of gameplay data needed to train the model in the first place was a colossal, practically impossible task. So here's the kicker. It wasn't a failure of imagination. It was a data problem. To teach an AI, you need a huge library of examples, a massive data set, and creating that from scratch inside the game was just not going to happen. The whole project seemed dead before it even started. But then, a breakthrough, a moment of clarity that completely flipped the entire problem on its head. What if the data wasn't the problem at all? What if the impossible-to-collect data set they needed to teach a super soldier already existed? Not on some server or a hard drive, but just sitting on a bookshelf. And this is the genius of it. For thousands of years, humanity has been documenting the art of war, from ancient texts like Sun Tzu's The Art of War, to incredibly detailed analyses of Napoleon's battles, to modern U.S. Army field manuals, and even combat footage. It's all there, a massive, pre-existing, peer-reviewed data set of tactical decisions and their outcomes. Okay, so how in the world do you turn a history book into code? Well, you structure it. Let's take a look at this example from Hannibal's legendary victory at the Battle of Cannae. You take the story and you break it down into data points. The input is the situation. You've got a smaller force, you're on open terrain, and you're up against an overextended enemy. The output is the tactic chosen, a double envelopment to encircle and destroy them. All of a sudden, a historical story becomes clean, structured data the game can actually understand. So this wasn't just some cool theory anymore. With this historical data model, there was now a practical, honest-to-goodness blueprint for creating a real, working mod. And the process itself was surprisingly straightforward. Step 1, compile all that amazing real-world data from books and manuals. 2, structure it into those input-output scenarios we just saw. 3, convert that logic into simple game scripts the engine can actually handle. And 4, the masterstroke. Instead of trying to reinvent the wheel, integrate this new brain into a popular existing AI mod, like Lambs, to give it an instant tactical upgrade. I mean, this comparison really just lays it all out, doesn't it? The machine learning approach was a performance hog that required an impossible amount of data collection. The historical model, on the other hand, is super lightweight, uses data that's already out there for the taking, and it plugs right into existing systems. It was the elegant, clever solution to a brute force problem. So, with this brilliant idea and a totally practical plan, the project evolved one last time. It went from a community mod into a real-world business proposal. A pitch that was, frankly, almost too good to refuse. The strategy was simple and just plain smart. Instead of building a brand new mod from scratch and trying to compete, why not just collaborate? The idea was to go to the creator of Lambs, one of the most popular AI mods out there, and offer them this massive tactical database as a simple plug-and-play upgrade. And this was the core of the pitch. For the creator of the Lambs mod, this was the chance to supercharge their AI with hundreds of new, historically backed behaviors with almost no coding on their part. They'd get all the credit for having the smartest AI on the Steam workshop, with basically no extra work. A no-brainer, right? And here's the bottom line. The proposal was to hand over this curated dataset of 200 unique tactical scenarios, all ready to go, for a flat fee of $2,000. It's a real, concrete number that turns this whole journey from a cool what-if into a tangible, valuable product. So, what can we take away from this whole amazing story? Well, first, that some of the most frustrating problems can be solved just by looking at them from a completely different angle. Second, that our own human history is this massive, untapped source of data that we can apply to all sorts of modern problems. And finally, that amazing things can happen when a brilliant idea is actually grounded in practical, collaborative action. And that leaves us with one last big thought. This project used military history to solve a video game problem. But what else is out there? What other seemingly impossible challenges in science or business or society could we start to tackle if we just knew how to read the data that's hidden in our own past?